It's another day and another news story. Welcome to Learn English with News. I'm Ben, your host, and today's news is all about something called Spygate, which has been causing a lot of controversy here in the UK. This is Learn English with News, a podcast for English learners where we focus on vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation and more, all while discussing an interesting news story. Welcome once again to Learn English with News. Before we hear the story, let's take a look at the vocabulary. So these are key words from the news story which you might not know or you might not be sure about. So if you'd like to write the words down, get yourself a piece of paper and a pen if you can. We have 4 words and we begin with a verb which is shake. S-H-A-K-E. Shake. And the verb shake can have different meanings. So listen carefully for how I use it in the news story to get a better understanding. Shake. Next we have a noun, breach. B-R-E-A-C-H. Breach. This is a noun. It could also be a verb, but I'm using it in the noun form. And then we've got 2 adjectives. Harsh, H-A-R-S-H, harsh, and willing, W-I-L-L-I-N-G. Willing. Okay, those are the key words. As I said, listen carefully, see if you can hear them, see if you can understand them. We'll come back to them a bit later on to look at what they mean and how I use them. And I'm also going to be talking about this story in a bit more detail afterwards. I'll be giving my opinion, my views about this scandal which has rocked English football, which you're about to find out about. Here we go. Here is today's news story. Football managers often say they would do anything to win, but some fans believe one club may have taken things much too far. A major controversy known as Spygate has shaken English football after Southampton were accused of secretly spying on rivals Middlesbrough before an important championship playoff match. According to reports, a suspicious person was seen filming or observing Middlesbrough's private training sessions shortly before the semi-final. Middlesbrough complained to the English Football League, the EFL, which launched an investigation. At first, many people thought Southampton might simply receive a fine. However, the situation became far more serious after investigators concluded that the spying was part of a determined plan inside the club. The EFL said Southampton had committed multiple breaches of the rules involving unauthorised filming of opponents' training sessions. Southampton were dramatically expelled from the championship playoffs, despite already beating Middlesbrough in the semi-final. They were also given a 4-point deduction for next season. The scandal has divided opinion across football. Some fans believe the punishment is fair because clubs should never secretly watch private training sessions. Others think expelling Southampton from the playoffs is too harsh. The story has reminded many supporters of a famous 2019 scandal involving Argentine coach Marcelo Bielsa, who admitted spying on opponents while managing Leeds United. For now, Spygate has become one of the biggest football controversies of the year, and a warning about how far clubs are willing to go in the search for success. And that's today's news story. Okay, so as I said, big controversy, big drama over in England in the Championship, which is the second division of English football after the Premier League. And I'm going to share my view in a moment. Maybe you've got your own opinion. But before we do that, let's take a look at the key words. So, 4 words. We begin with shake. And it's important to know that we're looking for the past participle, actually, of shake, which is shaken. So it's an irregular verb. Shake is the infinitive form. Shook is the past simple form, but I used it in the past participle form, shaken. I said a major controversy known as Spygate has shaken English football. So to shake in this context means to strongly affect or disturb something. Next we have the noun breach. The EFL, the English Football League, said Southampton had committed multiple breaches of the rules. So a breach is an action that breaks a law, a rule, or an agreement. And next we have the word harsh. Some people think expelling Southampton from the playoffs is too harsh. Harsh means too severe, strict, or unpleasant. And lastly, we have the word willing. Spygate has become one of the biggest football controversies of the year and a warning about how far clubs are willing to go in the search for success. So willing means ready or prepared to do something. So it shows how ready and prepared clubs are to do this type of thing, to take a big risk. Those are the key words. Hopefully they are clear. Okay, now I'm going to share my opinion about all of this. Now, if you are a regular listener to my podcasts, you might know I'm a football fan. I really love football. I watch football all the time. I'm a big supporter of Tottenham Hotspur, who at the moment are doing very badly. And maybe when you listen to this episode on Monday or afterwards, maybe we've just been relegated. It's possible. This has been recorded on Friday, so just before that big match on Sunday. But that's another thing. Let's not talk about the terrible situation my club is in. Now let's talk about the terrible situation that another club have found themselves in, and that is Southampton. So, as I was telling you in the news story, this club has been removed from the playoff final because they cheated. Some people think this is a bit harsh to remove a club from a final which gives you the opportunity to play in the Premier League, which is the top and most important division in England and maybe the world. But for me personally, I think it's the right decision. Maybe you agree with me, maybe not. And I'd like to tell you why I think it's the right decision. I mentioned in the news story that in 2019, there was a similar situation involving the manager of Leeds at that time, Marcelo Bielsa, an Argentine legend. He's a football coach from Argentina. And at that time, it wasn't a law. There was no law that said you cannot do this. It was more considered like a moral objection, let's say. People considered it just very unsporting, not appropriate to do this type of thing. And so what happened was they were heavily criticised, but nothing really came of it except a rule change. And they made it illegal to spy on other teams. However, then over the last couple of weeks, we have seen that Southampton broke this rule. They broke this football law and they spied on their opposition as they were training. They tried to gain an illegal advantage over their opposition and, well, they actually won. They beat Middlesbrough in that match. So maybe thanks to the cheating, they won that game. Now, you can't cheat. It's as simple as that. And our definition of cheating, that can depend on rules, that can depend on personal opinion, that can depend on culture as well. I've seen lots and lots of cheating in sport. And sometimes you get away with it. Sometimes you avoid the consequences. You get away with it. And sometimes you don't. In this case, for me, it was cheating. They broke the rules and they didn't get away with it. And the only suitable punishment in this particular situation is to remove them from the playoff final and give Middlesbrough the opportunity. So I'm personally happy with this decision. Maybe you feel differently. Maybe you think this is too harsh. But I think if you have a rule in place that says this is not allowed, and then you break that rule, you should accept whatever consequences come your way. So what do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you think it was a fair punishment? Or do you think, like I said in the news story, it was a bit harsh? So thank you very much for listening to today's episode. I hope you found it interesting and maybe you learnt some new words as well. Remember, you can read the full transcript of the news story on the Learn English with Ben fan club page. Visit patreon.com/Learn English with Ben. And there you'll also find a comprehension quiz to test your understanding. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast. Leave a review, a rating, preferably 5 stars if you don't mind. And keep supporting the podcast in all the ways you can. Tell a friend about it. I'll be back soon with another episode of Learn English with News, but let's listen for a second time to see if you understand it a bit better. So here is, once again, today's news story. Football managers often say they would do anything to win, but some fans believe one club may have taken things much too far. A major controversy known as Spygate has shaken English football after Southampton were accused of secretly spying on rivals Middlesbrough before an important championship playoff match. According to reports, a suspicious person was seen filming or observing Middlesbrough's private training sessions shortly before the semi-final. Middlesbrough complained to the English Football League, the EFL, which launched an investigation. At first, many people thought Southampton might simply receive a fine. However, the situation became far more serious after investigators concluded that the spying was part of a determined plan inside the club. The EFL said Southampton had committed multiple breaches of the rules involving unauthorised filming of opponents' training sessions. Southampton were dramatically expelled from the Championship playoffs, despite already beating Middlesbrough in the semi-final. They were also given a 4-point deduction for next season. The scandal has divided opinion across football. Some fans believe the punishment is fair because clubs should never secretly watch private training sessions. Others think expelling Southampton from the playoffs is too harsh. The story has reminded many supporters of a famous 2019 scandal involving Argentine coach Marcelo Bielsa, who admitted spying on opponents while managing Leeds United. For now, Spygate has become one of the biggest football controversies of the year, and a warning about how far clubs are willing to go in the search for success. And that's today's news story.